A few months ago, I moved into a small 2-bedroom home. I've never been interested in having roommates as I'm quite introverted and like my personal space, so I was very excited to finally have a decent space of my own. The day I officially got home, my father helped me move all of my stuff in for a couple of hours. I didn't have much stuff at the time, so it didn't take us very long to unload everything. Once we finished, we chatted for a little bit, then my father left. I was getting pretty hungry after all that lifting, so I decided to order some food. I placed an order for a small pepperoni pizza and began unpacking some boxes while I waited. After about 20 minutes, I heard what I thought was a knock at the door. I had some music playing from my phone nearby pretty loudly, so I wasn't exactly sure whether it was a knock or not. I turned the music down and approached the door to check if my pizza was there. When I opened it, I saw a man standing there. He was dressed in all black and was standing at the end of my walkway. We stared at each other for a few seconds until I said, "Can I help you?" The man continued to stare silently, with a mean-looking expression on his face. Getting a bit nervous now, I decided to close the door, but just as I was about to, the man started running towards me. I slammed the door shut and locked it, and the man began banging aggressively on the door. I told him I was calling the police and ran towards my phone to dial 911. As I picked up my phone, the banging stopped. I slowly moved towards the window to check if he was leaving, when I saw the man sprinting towards the back of my house. That's when it hit me. I hadn't locked my back door. I started running to the back of my house. Just as I locked the doors, the man was sprinting toward me from the outside. He stopped and just stared at me from the other side of the glass. He had that same angry expression from before. I ran into my bedroom and locked the door, and I dialed 911. I was panicking, worried that the man would get in through an unlocked window. After a few minutes of waiting, the dispatcher informed me that the police had arrived. I went outside to greet them and explained what had happened. They searched around my property but didn't find anything. They told me to call again if the man ever came back. I never saw him again. I've installed security systems since then, and always make sure to keep my doors locked at all times. You never know what people's intentions may be. When I was around 14, my parents went away for the weekend, so I had the house to myself for the first time. It was Friday morning. My parents prepared me lunch, gave me a spare key, and went over the basic house rules a million times. This was their first time leaving me home alone for a weekend, so I could tell they were pretty nervous. I assured them that I would be fine and that they could trust me. We said our goodbyes. I left the house and headed to school. It was a typical day, besides the fact that my parents were texting me non-stop to make sure I was okay. At lunchtime, I realized I had forgotten my lunch at home, in the chaos of calming my parents down before leaving. I opted to just buy some chips from the school vending machine since I didn't have very much money with me. When school was over and I got off the bus, I called my parents to let them know I was on the way home. They talked with me until I made it through the front door and knew I was home safe. I was feeling pretty hungry at this point from practically skipping lunch, so I headed to the kitchen to grab a snack. I saw my lunchbox I had left at home on the kitchen counter and decided to eat whatever was in there. I opened the lunchbox, but when I looked inside, it was almost empty. It looked like most of the food had already been eaten. I stared at it, confused. Why was my lunch already eaten? Then I realized I didn't unlock the door when I arrived home. I must have forgotten to lock it when I left for school. I ran outside and called my parents, letting them know what had happened. They told me to go to a neighbor's house and my dad called the police. When the police arrived and entered the home, they found a homeless man hiding in my parents' bedroom with one of our kitchen knives. They arrested the man, and my parents came home as quickly as possible. They lectured me on, but were mostly happy I was safe. Had I not left my lunchbox at home and realized someone had eaten it, who knows what could have happened. I don't know what that man's intentions were, but I'm just glad I didn't enter that room. I just started college. When I just moved into the dorms a few days ago, I was informed that I wouldn't have a roommate for the first few days. I'm definitely nervous to have a stranger I've never met living in the same room as me, but I'm excited at the possibility of making a new friend. I moved all of my stuff into my room a few days ago, decorated my room, and got all the necessary supplies I'd need for studying. It was now my third night in the dorms, and I was starting to get more comfortable in my new space. I was decorating my bedroom with some stuff I bought from Amazon when someone knocked at the door. It was getting late at this point, but college students are usually up at all hours, so I wasn't too alarmed. I walked to the door and opened it. A guy who looked to be around my age was standing there. "Are you my roommate?" I asked. "Yes," he responded as he walked past me and into our dorm room. I was a bit disappointed. He seemed very quiet and antisocial. Not someone I could see myself forming a friendship with. I showed him his room and my room, all while he kept completely silent. I asked if he needed help with anything, and he just shook his head no. To escape the awkward silence, I headed to my room and decided to get some sleep. I watched some videos on my phone for a bit and fell asleep. After a while, I woke up. I'm not sure exactly what woke me up though. I laid there for a bit, remembering my roommate. That's when I heard a faint giggling coming from outside my door. I reluctantly got up to see what he was doing. I quietly walked to my door and opened it. When I did, he was standing right in front of me. He had been standing directly in front of my bedroom door, laughing as I slept. "Are you okay?" I asked. He just smiled at me. It was a creepy, crazy-looking smile. I closed the door and locked it, freaking out at his behavior. I heard him walk around for a bit, then heard a door shut. I assume he finally went to bed. I tried to go back to sleep as well, but for obvious reasons, it was quite difficult. It was 5:30 a.m., so I just decided to scroll on my phone for a bit until the sun came up. At about 8 a.m., I left my room and saw that his bedroom was completely empty. He hadn't moved any stuff in, and he wasn't there either. That day, I asked to get a different roommate and was met with a confused response. I was informed that my roommate wasn't arriving for another 4 days. Whoever was in my dorm room last night was a complete stranger. I have no idea what they plan to do, but I am terrified.